Hey, welcome to another edition of Kyle Meredith with, the interview series presented by WFPK at WFPK.org, Consequence of Sound, and the Consequence Podcast Network. As usual, thanks for making your way here. And you know the drill, if you're not subscribed, now is an excellent time to subscribe as we release 3 new interviews every single week. And I'm very excited to have my next guest, Alicia Bagnano of Bully, who's back with a brand new record, Sugaregg. Hi, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm great. First, the compliments. Sugaregg, it's a powerful record, and it's a lot of fun to listen to. I mean, you keep
Thanks.
outdoing yourself on this one. I know I guess from what you've talked about so far, it's also sort of a hard-won record for you. I think when it came out, maybe this was on your Twitter, you had said you'd spent the last 3 years of your life on this record. Is that
Yeah.
just like... Is that just days lived to have the material that would make up these songs? Is that what you're talking about there?
No, I would say that's like 3 years of like writing for it. Yeah, I mean, it depends. There was like a little bit of the time towards the beginning of the writing process while I was still finishing up the touring cycle of losing, so things were a little bit on and off, but certain songs like Come Down in Prism were written 3 years ago, and it was just that. And then I came home and there was like almost 2 years of me being home strictly writing, went to record the record, thought it was done, decided I was going to keep writing, and wrote for another half a year. So yeah, I mean, the period has been like 3 years of actively trying to write for it.
Yeah, I mean that's gestation right there. That is
Yeah.
really building it up. Well, congratulations on it coming out and being, as I said, as powerful as it is. I hope you don't mind us jumping straight into the deep end here, because you know the other things you've talked about is how much personal growth went into this record, and I was wondering if you could like detail exactly what that personal growth for you has been.
I think that a lot of it is just, having had the other 2 records under my belt, I kind of knew a little bit more of like what I wanted and what sort of environment I wanted to be in. And after the first record, you just don't really know what to expect. You're like, how quickly do I have to write? How am I supposed to tour and write at the same time? You know what I'm saying? Like, is my career going to be over if I don't immediately put out another record? And I think my approach to writing losing was I was just in not a great headspace, and I think I was hyper aware of how it would be received and what expectations I was being held to. And for where to start, where to start, Sugaregg, sorry, the single's name is Where to Start. I feel like I really just wrote it for myself. Like I was like, I just want to do something that I'm going to be proud of. And if I think, like the dynamic in the band needs to be changed, or I need to part ways with people, or I need to give up the engineering responsibilities, if I think that's going to make for a better record, but like really a more creative fulfillment that I would get out of it, then it's time to just make those changes. And I think, you know, you just learn a lot when you're on the road for a long time, and things happen along the way as far as being like, I don't need to prove to everybody that I can engineer this record. Like I've already done that. I'm going to have someone else do it. I want to focus on songwriting. I want to focus on the music. And then as far as like our bass player going off to school and me parting ways with our guitar player, it just kind of felt like touring is a really taxing thing. And like we had been playing for 5 years, and I hope to be playing until I die. So, well, maybe up until then. I probably won't be releasing anything then, but I just love playing music is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, there's just like, I don't know. I'm like at a place in my life where I just know when things need to be changed, and I don't want to like sit back and kind of let them manifest anymore. I just am ready to like, move on,
Right.
say what needs to be said, and yeah, let go and move on. And I think I did that for this record.
Well, saying what needs to be said, I mean, I almost feel a little bit like an eavesdropper asking about some of these questions because it does sound so personal. But, you know, when I hear like there are a few lines I want to bring up on this record that I really connected with. Hours and hours. When you say I'm not angry anymore, I'm not holding on to that. Like to
Mm-hmm.
me, that sounds like maybe it's one of the most important realizations or lines on the record. Like, is
Yeah.
that, would you say so?
Yeah, totally. I mean, and I know that there's like inevitably going to be a lot of darkness and angst in bully songs. It's just like kind of what it is. But towards the end of that just felt like a really good way to come close to closing the record, because it was like essentially the first time I got to write where I was able to accept things and to like, you know, be in a better headspace and just let go and lean into that. And yeah, I think that line has a lot to do with the record.
Yeah, yeah. The other one I kind of outlined here, and this is probably my favorite line out of it. There's so much more that I could do than fucking around staring down at my dirty shoes.
Yeah.
I battle with my
I'm
own.
still doing that.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. Like, what's your daily battle with motivation? I know, especially maybe it's this year on top of it, but you know, this is your career, and having and it's up to you, right? I mean, your career is up to you at this point. Like, what's that battle like for
Yeah.
you?
It's like constantly trying to stay appreciative and remember how grateful I am to be able to do what I love for a living. It's just like a constant reminder. Like if I'm like, oh, I just don't feel like doing anything, it's like, well, you're supposed to make a zine today. Like that's fucking awesome. Like what are you, I don't, yeah. So it's that, but I mean, I think like more so it's not so much a battle with like my uh productivity as much it is like with my head and like and the things that are like inevitable distractions like my responsibility to social media and stuff like that. And it's more so a battle of just being like what matters, you know, like what are you enjoying, what do you believe in, and what matters, and like forget all this other, I'm not supposed to swear, am I?
This
Oh,
is
I was
podcast
like,
land, really.
oh, okay. I was worried after I said the F word. But yeah, and so that's really the battle, is being like, don't let this stupid comment or something like manifest the rest of your day. Like just let it go and remember that you're getting to do what you love for a living, and it's not all going to be like, oh, you just get to sit around and play music all day. It's like the other half of that is promoting the records so you can make another. And so yeah, it's more so just that constant reminder of like, if you want to keep doing what you love, you got to do this too.
Yeah, I'm not trying to make a good old days kind of speech because there was always some kind of promotion involved, but when you could just let the music speak for itself and you didn't have to worry about,
Right? Yeah,
you
that's
know.
my dream. That's my dream. I swear to God, I started this campaign and I was like, I'm not explaining any songs and blah, 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 blah. And I like wrote it out strategically instead of just being like me, who's like, no, I don't want to. I was like, this is why. And I think that like I could potentially like diminish the connection with my fans. And like, I want to keep that mystery there. And everyone's like, go ahead, Alicia, we hear you, we hear you. And then it's like, I start interviews and they're like, so what does this song mean? And I'm like, well, I'll tell you what. But there's just, I mean, you can control it, but there's no, you can control how you're going to navigate it, but there's really no getting around it.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I think I meant. Like, I feel like a voyeur even asking about these songs because I do get that. I mean, you know, that's there.
Yeah.
And so I'll continue along that line awkwardly. But and I'm only going to bring up one more line actually, because in Come Down, and this goes with what I think this goes with what we're saying, because you do say, I hope you've come to realize your worth. And I was wondering, like, you know, I know not everything is always about you, and sometimes it's outward, but it's like, is that one of those moments where you are giving yourself the pep talk, or is that to a friend?
Um, I don't think I will ever come to realize my own worth. Like, I just have a really hard time with self-worth. I would like to, but I always wish, you know, like I think everybody wishes that maybe they could like see themselves the way other people see them. I think if we were able to do that, we wouldn't like struggle so much with insecurities and confidence, or maybe not. But that line in particular was just written about somebody else who I loved very much, who was really hard on themselves, and it could totally be applied to me too, but it was not written for me. I love that line though. It's really, yeah.
Yeah,
You know, when
absolutely.
there's like someone in your life who you love that you just see beating themselves up and it just doesn't stop, and you just want to shake them and be like, you're an amazing genius, stop. Like, how can I like quiet these voices in your head? But yeah, it's such a hard thing to do. Like, I don't really know anybody who is like naturally just knowing their worth. It's good to know, it's good to have on your radar, and I think I know a lot of people who are trying to do that, but to be able to do that is not the easiest thing.
Yeah. Outside of being a narcissist, which of course
Yeah,
is unhealthy
I
in
almost made
itself.
an only child joke. And I was like, don't do that.
I am
It's
the whole
not true.
world. Well, that's true. Well, I'll pull out a little bit from the specifics and more on the art form here, because every tradition, outside, you did call that probably the most literal song on the record. But is there a process when something is very literal in this way of trying to make it poetic, or do you sort of lean towards the music to take care of that side of it?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are songs like every tradition where the focus on that song was to get across what I wanted to say. And, that was like the motivation behind that. So the lyrics end up being a lot more little literal for something like that, as opposed to me sitting down and feeling a certain way and finding the right chords that like fit to my mood. And then I feel like there's room for the lyrics to be a little bit more poetic. So it just sort of shifts, and I think that the music, yeah, like has a lot to do with that, kind of what's going on with the guitars and the tempo of it. But stuff like Prism, where it's, I would say, more poetic and a little bit more abstract than something like Every Tradition. It's just that one started with the chords and I really liked it and it made me feel a certain type of way, and then I kind of pulled the meaning out of that and decided what I wanted to say in it, as opposed to Every Tradition where I was like, I need to say this and everybody needs to listen and blah 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 blah. And yeah, that one's so literal, painfully literal, but I'm okay with it. I'm aware.
Well, in your voice, it does sound like you're the dynamics, I guess, that you're doing right now seems more
Hmm.
maybe than you've tried in the past too. I'll hit on Come Down Again. Like there's a delicacy that I don't quite remember ever hearing
Yeah,
before. Is that part of the
totally.
story?
I love Lucinda Williams. I know nothing about country, and when I heard Lucinda Williams, I was like, whoa, this is
Yeah.
so good. Um, and yeah, I mean, that one was kind of, I don't know where that came from, because I don't know. I want to say it kind of came from that like her being my influence there, but I think that I was able to sing a lot more on this record, whereas the last one, leaving the record cycle for Feels Like, the highlight of sort of every write-up was about my scream and, oh, she screams and she screams. So for Losing, I think I was just screaming because I was like, that's what they want, that's what they're writing about. And then when I started writing Sugaregg, I was like, well, what's one of my favorite things to do? It's to like sit and try like 8 different melodies for a song and narrow down which one I like, and then spend hours just adding weird little oohs and ahs and harmonies, and then taking out like 90% of them and keeping 10%. And I just wanted to do a lot more of that. And I'm so glad I did,
Mm.
because I don't know, it's just like easy to forget that. I mean, I don't wouldn't go as far as saying as I can sing, but it's easy to forget that I can sing in a certain type of way.
Yeah.
Not like a Kelly Clarkson type of way, just like I can get by singing and it's fun to do. So,
It does make for a more fulfilling record, and with that in
yeah.
mind, I'll transition a little bit here because that sort of makes sense to me now. Recently, you covered Nirvana, but you covered About a Girl. This isn't one of the Scream songs. I don't know if that kind of
Mm-mm.
plays into that or if
Well,
it was the
to
moment.
be to be totally honest, I covered that because I was supposed to cover something like on the Sub Pop roster that I was allowed to cover. And that one was one that I thought I could do a good job of, but also it was kind of like a nudge and a wink, like almost cringy that I covered that, because we get compared to 90s bands all the time. So I was like, whatever, I'm just going to fully do it. And
Lean
like
into it.
half the people are going to be like, you're the worst. And the other half the people are going to be like, I wanted Bully to cover Nirvana. So I was kind of being a little bit of a smartass when I covered that. But yeah, I had actually so much fun doing that. Like doing both those covers, kind of rewriting songs that aren't mine, was like, and that one in particular too was just like, I got it. There are certain parts that like I felt like my vocal could do the same sort of grit, and I was like, okay, I get it, like this is fun, like I get the comparisons. But yeah, no, it's funny because it's like the most, it's not mellow, but like vocally just kind of like stays in the same vein the whole song.
Yeah,
But yeah, it was really fun to do.
I don't want to hide from it. Obviously, I'm in the camp that was like, yeah, I do hope they cover Nirvana one day. Like, it made sense. You had interned under Albini, as your backstory goes and all this. You did play a loud type of music. It was like, when you finally happened, it was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
and it's
let's
great.
do it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it was
next
great.
it'll be whole. It'll just be spot on.
That's it. The Orville Peck cover, by the way, the Turn to Hate. I thought that was interesting the way you recorded that, because your voice, in contrast to how Sugaregg is recorded, even to how About a Girl, it's almost like a wash back in the music a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what were you going for?
Well, when I was like listening through to what I was gonna pick from, I heard that melody in the chorus, and I was like, this melody is incredible. Like his vocal melody is so good. And so that's really what I was just like, I want to do that. But yeah, it was weird. It was weird for me to sing especially that like pre-chorus. I like didn't know where to go with my voice. But do you mean just like mix wise? Like
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, I was probably just trying to cover up my pitchiness. It's usually what I do when the vocals are down. Yeah, there's a lot going. Also, I was like trying to cover up because I played drums on both of those, and I'm like an awful drummer. So a lot of but we were like deep in quarantine, like no one was seeing anybody. So I was like, whatever, I'm just gonna play everything on these. And a lot of those too was like, how can I kind of mask the drumming? Like, how can I just like cover it up so it's like there, but you're not like, wait, what's going on right now with this drum part? And that's probably a product of that.
Never occurred to me there was anything wrong with the drums.
Well, thank God I pointed it out, so now everybody can
now I go back and listen to it.
Extra attention.
Right. I'll kind of close up here because I guess the parts in the middle of the two records is you wrote songs for a movie, right? With Her Smell?
Mm-hmm.
What was that experience like? I've seen the movie. I mean, what an interesting, different movie. The vibe just does not lay off the whole time.
It's really intense.
Yeah.
That was great. I loved it. I want to do so much more of it. It was just, I mean, I think like working with Alex and Elisabeth was like, has a lot to do with why that was great, just because it was like, I would write something, send it over, they would sit with it and they'd be like, oh, this is great, this works. And I was like, this is too easy. Not too easy, but I was like, something is going to go wrong. But no, it was awesome. Pretty much I got the script, right over the script, told Alex that I would do it, and then sat down with a script and kind of wrote the songs that I was supposed to in the scenes, but like based off of how I imagine Elisabeth's character would feel. And it was just really cool to not write something for Bully for once. It was like it was a good writing exercise. Not to say that was just an exercise, because I got paid. That would be a well-paying exercise. But it was yeah, and it was really funny. It was like once we would decide on a song, I was on the road for a lot of it and would set up my phone and video my hands playing each chord and like break down each chord, because I'm not a music theory person at all. So a lot of the times I don't really know what I'm playing. I had like an app that could also break them apart, and I did that, but mostly it was like me sending videos of my hands to Elisabeth, who would then show to her guitar teacher, and she would learn how to play. And it was also like a good practice of sort of letting things go, because it was the first time where I wrote something and then it wasn't mine anymore, and it was done like, you know, like a little things that are naturally going to be different, like melodies or like a few lyrics that just like come out differently and stuff, and I had to just let it go and be okay with that. And I totally was. I mean, it's not, you know, I was like hired to write for a character, and that was my only relationship with the film, but it was so good. Yeah,
Yeah.
I hope to do a lot more movie stuff, because I really like writing in general, and it's nice to not always have to do it for Bully.
Yeah. Manifest that out there.
Yeah.
Do those songs, like, do you think of them as part of your discography now? Like, if you were out touring, if this was the Sugaregg tour, do you throw those in?
Oh, not at all. No.
No.
Mm-mm.
They're outside. They're a different thing. That's
I
interesting.
mean, if I were to have, okay, I think there's obviously a reason I was asked to do it, because my sound resembles that era, or that idea of that era. Um, so yeah, it's not like I was writing country songs for a film and they're completely out there. But I feel like if I was to turn them into Bully songs, then I wouldn't have done the job I was supposed to do, which was like write for a different character in someone else's shoes. So I'm very like, no, not my song.
Yeah.
Wasn't for me, didn't come from me, it came from a character. And I mean, it did come from me, let's be honest, but yeah.
But they live in the movie. That's where they live
They
now.
live in the movie, and that's it.
Yeah.
Also, it's like if you hear them, it's like one of them is kind of like half a song that falls apart. Another's supposed to be like a sentimental slow one. There's really only one that would even be played live, and that's the last one. But
Yeah.
yeah.
That's interesting. On the much brighter side, those are dark songs. You got your own Vans shoes.
I do have my own bands. They're so
Like,
cool.
this is something that's one of those things that, that goes up on the shelf forever, right? Like, that's something. Who gets that?
I don't know. Honestly, Vans, I should just I just, yeah, want to like live in their offices that I've never been to, and I don't even know where they exist. But like, I feel like I've got to do so much cool stuff with bands, for bands, and I'm very lucky for that relationship. I got to play like an all girls skateboard event. It was like a weekend. We flew to like, I think it was like in New York, and then we flew to Chicago, and it was the most empowering, inspiring thing. And I was just like, man, bands just comes through. Like
Yeah.
they just keep putting cool shit my way, and I'm very grateful for that.
So what do you do when they say design a shoe for us? What do you want to accomplish with that shoe?
I'm like, oh fuck, can I like hire someone else to do it? Because I don't design shoes or draw. I mean, we were kind of a little bit limited with what we could have done. We wanted to do like a embroidery and stuff and make it a little more specific, but we had to go based off of what you can do with their customs creator. So like anything that we tried to do with like the record cover picture and stuff just ended up looking kind of wonky. So I just thought about like what people think of when they, or like a symbol that is recognizable for Bully fans. And I have like a tattoo here that's now called like the no face tattoo. And a bunch of Bully uh followers, fans. I hate saying fans because it sounds like so pretentious, but whatever. I don't know what else to say. A bunch of Bully's audience got the same tattoo. So I like actually made a poster of all the Bully tattoos. And so that just seemed like a good one to put on the shoe. And then the ice cream cone is off of the, I don't know if you've seen us play live, but we bring two like massive ice cream cones that we have on our amps that light up. So I figured those were like pretty strong Bully symbols and would work well for the shoe.
Right. They're cool. They're cool. They're and
Thanks.
They do those little things. It's interesting how those little like doodles or whatever you want to call them like become iconic so quickly. You know, it's like how they end up meaning something so quickly. You
Yeah.
know, to a certain group of people. Anyway, Alicia. Again, the compliments on Sugaregg. I love what you're doing. We always love what you're
Thank
doing
you.
with all the records. So thank you for continuing to do it. Thank you for taking the time to talk about it today.
Thanks. Thank you for all the support. It means a lot.
Anytime. We'll keep giving it. You keep giving the music. We'll keep doing it.
Okay. Have a great day.
All right. It was great talking to you. We'll see you around. Thanks.
You too. Bye.